You'd be forgiven if you didn't know this because, well, I think at its peak on the White House YouTube page, there was about 4,000, 5,000 people that were watching. But Biden gave not a press conference. Oh, Lord, no. He couldn't be asked to do something so strenuous in the middle of the night for him. I think it was like at 7 o'clock. But it was a speech that he gave, like I said, 23 minutes in length. And it was to celebrate, I guess you could say a celebration of the 1 year anniversary, and hopefully the last anniversary of this, of 15 days to flatten the curve. Okay, well, and what did we get out of old Sleepy Joe? Well, a very long, drawn-out delivery that was very low energy, and he leaned in a couple of times saying, I know your pain. I feel your pain. Okay, when you had to walk up those stairs to say to your kids, hey, I just lost my job. Even though Joe Biden has never had to make that conversation with any of his children, hell, if they ever lost a job, he'd just go ahead and get them one on a foreign board across the ocean. No, the Biden family has never had to struggle for anything in their life. He added in a little anecdote that maybe his father had to do that once in Scranton, and then he became a rather successful businessman once they moved to Delaware after he was 7 fucking years old. So, you know what? Spare the theatrics, Joe. And of course, everybody on the left thought it was, oh, so wonderful. Oh, he's empathetic. At least he isn't mean on Twitter like Orange Man. And Orange Man, sure, but it's bad. But what did Biden do in this one? Well, one of his first statements was to slag Trump because obviously, while it wasn't necessarily a pointed jab, but what it was just a little illusion because what does Trump call the coronavirus? Well, he accurately describes it as the China virus, obviously. And I don't know if he's ever been against masks, okay? That is something I can't find. That is something that is commonly put out there in the media, but when it comes to actually wearing one in situations that require it, I can remember him saying, I carry a mask and whenever I feel like I need it, I'll wear it. And he was always on the side, even when Fauci wasn't, that you should probably wear masks. So Biden takes the opportunity to say a mask, the easiest thing to do to save lives. Sometimes it divides us. States pitted against one another of working with each other. Oh, instead of working with each other. Who keeps bringing up the fact that there's red states and blue states? Not mentioning any of the successes that the red states have had by not having any greater caseloads per capita, hospitalizations, death rates, any of that stuff, and they didn't lock down. Meanwhile, you have number fudgers over in the blue states that you'll never bring up, and they have the strictest mask mandates, and they show no signs of letting up. And then telling everybody that they need to adhere to the policies that don't work in New York, Minnesota, California, that's where your divide is, okay? Saying that you might ban domestic travel to Florida because they won't adhere to your nationwide mask mandate, that's division, Joe. You don't get it. And here's another one. Vicious hate crimes against Asian Americans who have been attacked, harassed, blamed, and scapegoated. At this very moment, so many of them are fellow Americans. They're on the front lines of this pandemic trying to save lives, and still, they are forced to live in fear for their lives just walking down the streets in America. Who's doing the assaults? Okay, it's pretty easy to figure out right now because there is a major epidemic, and there was a guy who was sucker punched, and elderly gentleman in, I believe it was San Francisco, 87-year-old man, 87-year-old Asian man, sucker punched, dropped, and died. Okay? I don't think that had anything to do with the coronavirus or people thinking, just like Jeremy Lin. It doesn't warrant bringing up an article, but it bears mentioning in this context. He brought up the claim that, he's been slandered and he's had anti-Asian slurs cast against him in G League basketball games. And we finally got the reveal of what that was. He was called coronavirus. Yeah, okay. But did he want to name who said it on the court? I'll give you one guess as to the defining feature of that basketball player who might have said or called Jeremy Lin coronavirus. That's who's doing all these assaults. But no, you'll just blame that on Trump's xenophobia by calling it the China virus. You're an asshole, Joe. You don't get it. He promised to do the one thing that Americans want, and he couched it in a little anecdote of, when I was up in Philadelphia, I met a small business owner, a woman. I asked her, I said, what do you need most? I'll never forget what she said. Here's what she should have said, and before we get to her actual point, get out of my way, Joe. I just want to open up my business. Stop making me do all of these costly and retarded measures. But no, apparently, in this totally real conversation, she looked me in the eye. She said, I just want the truth. The truth. Just tell me the truth. The whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But then, she couldn't handle the truth. I just watched this movie, and I had little black kids playing with my leg hair, and it turns blonde in the sun, and Corn Pop was a bad dude. My fellow Americans, you're owed nothing less than the truth, and there is nothing that I would believe more than the words that are coming out of Joe Biden are nothing but the truth and nothing less, because nothing instills the ability to tell the truth more than 47, coming up 48 years of public service. What a lying asshole. Oh yes, we've covered this several times, but it also bears repeating before we get into this little statement here. Joe Biden tries to take credit for just completely aping the policies and the procedures that Trump's administration used for rolling out the vaccine. Okay, remember, he was the one who fast-tracked this. Okay, he was the one who got it into the hands of the people who were able to distribute it. And yes, obviously, because it just got approved, it was just created, it was just rolling out. So when Joe Biden took office, 8% of Americans, he says, after months, I'd beg to differ. And they were on track. And not long after Joe Biden was in office, within his first week, he said that there was nothing to do to change the trajectory of this. And so he's trying to take credit for just following everything that Trump was doing and was going to do and had laid out in his plan. But yes, he'll say that he was able to raise 8% of people vaccinated over the age of 65 received their first vaccination when he first took office. Today, that number is nearly 65%. Well, I'd hope so, Joe. You've had almost 2 months in office. Just 14% of Americans over the age of 75 50 days ago had gotten their first shot. Today, that number is well over 70%. Like I said, I hope you're doing your job. But that was all of this speech, okay? That was the entire context of this. Oh, we're going to make sure everybody's going to have access to the vaccine. And he says it here maybe a little bit lower, but everybody who wants the vaccine, I want to make sure that this is available by May 1st. 6 weeks from now. Okay, if you're on this current trajectory where the high-risk people are getting the vaccine at an expedited rate, rather, why is it going to take 6 weeks? Okay, Trump bought 750 million vaccines. That is, at least by my calculations, enough to do everybody twice, which is what was required from the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccination. The Johnson & Johnson one, I do believe, is one shot. That one just got approved. I'm pretty sure it's in the manufacturing state right now. And yeah, he brought that one up as well. Just a little sidebar. I'm going to link the transcript if you guys want to go through it as well. But he was championing how Johnson & Johnson and one of their competitors came together and really worked hard to get this vaccine out there. Yeah, when you already have a promise that the government is going to be buying 100 million doses of your vaccine, you think you're probably going to work with your competitor. It would be like, okay, because the government at every branch is going to start replacing all of their gasoline-powered vehicles with electric vehicles by 2035 or 2050. The date doesn't matter. Do you think that Ford and Chevy are going to come together and probably start to make all of the vehicles that they can if they get a purchase order from the government just because they're competitors and they come and work together on this one project? You have to take a look at the context of all of it, because when there is guaranteed money on the table, it doesn't matter. Okay, but I guess that's foreign when it comes to the government, because they're not in the business of actually solving problems. They're in the business of perpetuating problems so that they can continue to get reelected for, I don't know, I'll just pull a number, 47 years, and then you just fail your way up to the highest office in the land. But yes, I could continue on and on, but there is one big headline that has come out of this, okay? When can we return back to normal? If, okay, the presidential president, the man who's no longer mean on Twitter, he comes out there, he leans on the podium, he's very empathetic, and he's telling you, I feel your pain, because Joe Biden doesn't, of course, have an original thought in his head. So when are we going to return back to normal? When are the vaccination numbers going to be enough? When are the numbers finally going to meet that mythical idea of herd immunity and we can stop wearing masks and we can start gathering together? Well, hopefully by July 4th, because there are going to be new guidelines in place. Because for Independence Day, Americans may have small celebrations if we do our part. So he couched it in a threat as well. Make sure, the trajectory is right now, we're hoping to have people in small gatherings outside July 4th with just your immediate family. A year and a half on from this fucking disaster, that on Independence Day, I cannot believe somebody, that's a picture of him leaning over his podium if you didn't believe me, because not many people seen it, because even though he's the most popular president of all time, nearly 81 million votes, can't be wrong, right? Only maybe 10,000 people across every stream came out and bothered to watch this abomination live. But nobody caught the fact that he's trying to set up restrictions 4 months into the future on a day that perfectly describes the founding of the United States. Independence. Oh, something slipped through the censors, I suppose. President Joe Biden gave his first primetime address to the nation on Thursday, no questions, in which he said was that if we do our part, then there's a good chance Americans will have a small events by Independence Day. Yeah, just look around at the several states that are currently removing all of their mask mandates. Can we go through all of them? We'll go through some of them. North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Mississippi, Alabama's supposed to be dropping off by then. Even Connecticut. More joining by the day. Do you think that they're going to be having small gatherings? Even in deep blue states with deep red districts, they're going to be gathering together because they don't want to live in fear any longer. Was it scary when the coronavirus first came out? Sure. Yeah, definitely. We all thought that this was going to have 2, 3, 4, 5% mortality rate. And it was just, transmitted through fucking rain. If a little too humid that day, you'd walk outside, you get the coof, and you'd end up being fucking laid up for a month. And then once the science, your oh-so-credible science started to come out, that narrative started to get busted, and the numbers started to roll in, and then people really didn't have a reason to be as fearful as you wanted them to be. So yeah, all the fear was fairly well dissipated by July. And you expect people to be just as fearful because you were talking in a nice, calm tone, leaning into the podium, that people would still be buying your line of shit some 18 months later? Fuck off, Joe. This doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, Biden said. I need you to get vaccinated when it's your turn and when you can find an opportunity. So the government telling you what you need to do, that's always a great sign of somebody who's totally in control. He said, adding, he is urging all states to make all American adults eligible for a coronavirus vaccine by May 1st. Okay? Like I've always said, if you want it, get it. That's fine. Okay? Just don't impose your will on me. I don't care. There are very few things I care about. Very few people I trust. Very few people that I even like. But when it comes to freedom, when it comes to protecting God-given rights, I'm there. I care a lot about that. People, not so much. Ideas and concepts, very much so. The president also suggested that if enough people get vaccinated, that will mean there's a good chance Americans will be able to have small get-togethers for Independence Day. Oh, it's very funny. That doesn't mean large events with lots of people together, but it does mean small groups will be able to get together, the president added. Biden went on to insist that being able to have small events on Independence Day in a post-vaccinated America will be something truly special. Fuck off. After this long, hard year... Okay, if you're that will make this Independence Day something truly special. When we not only mark our independence as a nation, follow our guidelines though, but we begin to mark our independence from this virus. Fuck off. Fuck off. Other things that he said in there as well. Your businesses had to close. You lost your jobs. We have to defeat this virus. Who caused the job losses? Who caused the businesses to be shut down? And in some states, still be shut down. The government. Like I brought up there when he was telling that anecdote about, just tell me the truth to that lady who's totally real and was totally in Philadelphia. I completely agree that story happened. What should the government do with this? Provide the resources to get back to normal and get the fuck out of the way. Freedom is the only way to get out of this. You can do this, turn everything back on, and everything will be back to normal within a couple of months. Support the people who you've locked out of their businesses. Do it through tax cuts. Do it through tax breaks. Get these people back on their feet. Get it back to the base of the economy that you have, that you are obligated to resuscitate over your next 3.5 years in office. That is your only obligation going forward. It's not bombing Middle Eastern countries. It's not making sure that men can compete, lesser men can compete in women's sports. It's about making sure that the entire American public has the opportunity at life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Get the fuck out of the way, Joe. So, that was my take on his 23-minute speech. I look forward to his next press conference. Who knows when that's going to be, and when Joe takes live questions, that sure is going to be an experience, and I hope to cover it as well. And with that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.